Hello and welcome to India Career Center, the one-stop podcast for students, professionals, parents, and guardians. In every episode, we will try to deal with a current topic that needs expert advice related to career, career guidance, and career mentoring. Please welcome your host, Dr. S.B. Mishra, to the show. And happy listening.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to one more episode on India Career Center. We have today a very important topic, the role of women entrepreneurs in Indian business. What actually triggered my thought on this subject is I came across a report by Forbes India, which was published in November 2021. It says that women entrepreneurs in India constitute about 14% of the overall business owners in India. That's one. And number two, what I have been also talking in under most of my other podcast episodes as well. By 2030, the world is going to be very different because of the four different trends in the world. So it's digitization, population growth, decarbonization, and the last one is energy security. I think these are the top four trends which are trending right now in the world. And those trends will have direct impact on everybody's career. And this is true especially for young people who are in their schools and colleges. And probably entrepreneurship is something which they should not neglect as one of the most important options for them to take up as a profession going forward. Because the traditional jobs are going to be very few, and they will be replaced with professional contracts which are skill based, knowledge based. So which means that more and more people in the coming years will take up skill based contracts and knowledge based contracts, and they will have to probably work on multiple number of contracts, not just one, because they will not be in traditional jobs. So if you're managing multiple number of contracts, obviously you need to have that entrepreneurial mindset. So to discuss more about all these topics, I think we've got a fantastic speaker today, Ms Rupa Patil. She has got an illustrious career. I think it would be difficult on my part really explain about all her achievements, accolades about Rupa. So I will obviously ask her to take us through her journey. Rupa, we are so happy to have you here on this podcast episode today. And this is especially very important because you are representing those 14% of women in India today who are part of the business community. And what is most important is that you are actually helping other entrepreneurs, whether it is women or even male entrepreneurs, to grow in their business. And I sincerely wish that some of our listeners and viewers who are going to see this or listen to our podcast will actually take your example as a great aspirational figure, and they will follow your footsteps in terms of shaping their future. So welcome, Rupa, to this. So
Thank you very much for having me here, Dr. SB, and a big round of applause to those of you watching this beautiful podcast series by Dr. SB, and his heart is there in inspiring you, and that is what binds us together. So I look forward to serve all you amazing listeners. And Doctor, thank you once again for inviting me to your podcast. It's an honor and privilege.
thank you so much. And to start our discussion today, obviously we will like to take a tour of your early life, your early career, and what events actually shaped you to what you are today. It would be very fascinating to learn about that for me and obviously for all our listeners and viewers.
Thank you. Thank you for asking. And because we will be probably having a lot of school kids and young adults who will be listening to this, so I would like to start at that point, taking all of you back to my school time, rather a little before that when I was just a small kid. So I come from Bombay. I'm born and brought up in Bombay in a very large family. We are, family of five siblings. I am the second one, and generally it is said that second ones are the troublesomes, and there is no doubt in that. So I was the most troublesome kid, the problem child, as they call. So I was one of those. So, and yes, today, even before I could become a speaker or an author or a trainer, whatever I am today, it all started with a kid who couldn't even say her name properly. My name is Rupa, and I was such a big stammerer. I could not even say my name properly as a child. And yes, so it literally, started there at that point of time. And back in school, for those of you who believe that you're an average student, you're not a top grader. And I don't know, if you have that doubt saying, okay, I am not one of those grade one, the top tier one. I am not the first class student, or I don't come first, second, or even third in the class. Then hey, you're in good company. I was one of those absolute backbencher. Trouble was my real middle name. So, and absolutely average. I didn't really find studies that interesting. I used to love maths and physics though. And as a child, I believe I was more interested in writing poetries, playing hockey, singing, dancing, and doing all sort of nonsense outside the classroom. So if you find yourself doing that, it's okay. It's not end of the world for you. So it started there, and my teachers actually labeled me good for nothing. That is how not one, but almost all my teachers, right in my grade 5, I was tagged to be the good for nothing student. So if you are ever called good for nothing, don't worry. There is hope for you, there is hope for me, and there is hope for each one of us. So it started there, doctor, and yes, days passed, and because I was coming from not so great financial background, I realized that my mother was working too hard, my father was working too hard, and I wanted to do something for the family. And I started working right after my 10th grade exam. My exam finished today, and from this evening I started working, I started helping. And that is where we will be talking about it a lot later. But these small things that you do as a kid, as a college kid, shapes your entire everything that you do today has some meaning that you'll figure out 5 years, 10 years, 20 years later in your life. So I started working at the age of 10. By the grade of 10, I started working, and I have never stopped working. I do not intend to stop working. Even if one of you give me your hereditary property and tell me that, Rupa, now you're a millionaire, I'll say thank you very much, but I'll continue to work. So I have been working since then, and I have self-sponsored my engineering. And everything that I do is because of the work, the consistency. Sometimes I lack, but I do have great mentors. So it has been really that. Finished my schooling, self-sponsored my engineering, continued working. So even during my engineering, all the years of my engineering, I was continuously working. I had part-time jobs. I had some kind of a sales-based job. I have done right from waiting the tables at a restaurant to selling credit cards to picking the phone and selling ads, working in hotels, restaurants, name it, I have done it, even door-to-door sales. So that is how it started early on, but that is also the start of my entrepreneurship career.
Fantastic. I sincerely feel, I think probably if Rupa was a kid now, and the parents knew that there was a possibility to do something which is different from other kids, probably they might have actually taken the support of a career counselor in terms of really knowing what is the strength and what is the area where Rupa would have really excelled from the early career. I think that is something which probably at earlier those years, those concepts were not there, but I think fortunately now it is available. So if anyone who is listening to us or viewing this video, and you feel that there are such challenges, I think you should actually reach out to a certified counselor who can actually help you. And there are millions of different things which can be done. I think we should not actually lose hope, because everyone, like how Rupa explained, everyone is unique, and that uniqueness has to be brought forward. That's it. So thank you, Rupa. I think you have really bared all your truth, and I'm sure a lot of your story will connect with a lot of young children who will resonate with your story. So thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
Okay, going forward, so you took up engineering, and you were also working while you were studying. And then of course you took up jobs, and you worked for various good brands for about nearly little more than a decade before you switched over to entrepreneurship. So take us through that journey.
Thanks for asking. I would say it would begin with a question to our amazing listeners. Have you ever found yourself saying that, yes, I want to do that. I don't know when, I don't know how, I just know why I want to do that, and that I want to do that. So I was one of those. So right during my, when I started working in grade 10, as you know by now, one of the first things that I was really fascinated by was the world of business. So as a grade 10 kid also, when I got out and did my first sales call, I went to my friend's house and he was so happy to see me because we used to play hockey. And then he said, okay, come on, let's go for play. I said, no. मैं यहाँ पे business के सिलसिले में आई हूँ. That was right from the 70s, 80s, Bollywood movies. But that is how fascinated I was with the term business. And I knew nothing because I do not come from business background. Neither from the paternal or the maternal side. We do not come from business background. So for me, by the time I reached college, I just knew that business is where my heart is. And I used to always say, by the time I finished my engineering, I used to always say that, yes, I'm going to get into business. I don't know when, I don't know how, I don't know anything. Don't even ask me what business, because I really don't know. So that is what my entire engineering looked like. And the kids today are so much more smarter. They have access to so many different global businesses. And back then, I, of course, did not. And as I said, I'm an average kid. So those of you who feel that you're an average person, there is hope. There is absolutely hope. So during my college, all I knew was, yes, I want to do some business. By the time I was in my last year of engineering, I attempted to launch my first business. I did the entire planning on a piece of tissue paper along with my very dear friend from college while we were sitting in canteen, and I was just scribbling everything that was coming to my mind. And we attempted, creating a startup out of it. We went to the bank for loan and they were laughing at me saying, okay, what is your business plan? Who is your business mentor? What is the experience? And I knew nothing of these questions. But the kids today are a lot more privileged in terms of access to information, in terms of access to the guidance. There are certified counselors, there are certified coaches, there are mentors, there are business owners who are willing to open their heart and help you in every possible way. That was not the case for me. So that business really didn't fly, but the idea of business remained in my heart. Little did I know that it would take close to 10 years more for me to launch my first business. But throughout the 10 years, even when I was working in amazing companies, what stayed in my heart was, someday I'm going to start a business. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I'm going to do it. So that was the entire, corporate career. And I think because of that, what happened was I kept reading books, So one of the first books that I had read, I think it was close to 2000, it was close to 18 years ago. The first book that I read was this, The 1 Minute Entrepreneur. Why was I reading this book while I was still a tech support engineer? Because I just knew that one day I'm going to get into business. I don't know when, I don't know how. But what I was getting to is I was doing a lot of upskilling. I was continuously, so after my office, even though I was in tech support, which is quite a thankless job for those of you who know it, and it is quite a stressful job. So even after that, I used to stay back in the office library for half an hour. I used to borrow books, I used to read. So I've practically done my MBA through this. So I'm not an MBA. So those of you who are engineers plus MBAs, I am not one of those. I was not even supposed to be an entrepreneur on the first place. But yes, so right after engineering, during my corporate life, I kept upskilling. One of my first webinars that I attended was back in 2004, when webinar as a concept was not even popular in India. In fact, the webinars used to happen only during the US hours, Canada hours, UK hours. So I used to stay up late in the night or wake up early in the morning only to upskill myself. So continued with that journey, and fast forward, knowing that I'm interested in entrepreneurship, I started taking a lot of responsibility. So for those of you who want to get into business, upskilling is 100% required. And you can do upskilling by reading books, simple books, one book at a time, and implementing one little thing out of it. And those of you who do not want to get into business, I would still highly recommend upskilling yourself on the line of entrepreneurship, because even as a student, even as a working professional, even as a team leader, manager, project manager, software engineer, entrepreneurship, like sportsmanship, teaches you to build a character of a leader. And that is what I was grooming. So once again, going back, I see how the dots have connected. And these books, these upskilling sessions, these late night, early mornings, me working on the weekends, trying to create something out of nothing, really made me the person that I am today. And I continue to upskill every single week. So yes, after 10 years of my corporate, and even during my corporate life, I think the leaders in the organization did see that there is something more, that there is a little more madness to this woman who is working, and at the same time she's coming to me. So there have been multiple occasions where I have gone to my boss and I have actually fought to him saying that you're paying me too much. And he said, "Are you mad? Who says like that? Who talks like that?" I said, "Well, I do. I think, I can do a lot more, but what I'm doing is too less, and you're paying me too much more for that." So I have had this kind of a conversation with my bosses, and had never asked for a raise. I've always got the promotion, always got more than what I expected because of entrepreneurship, the mindset of entrepreneurship. And then got into the intrapreneurship projects. So within organizations, so you don't even need to run your own startup. If you have that entrepreneurship mindset, you will be picked for projects which has to take off from the scratch. So that is intrapreneurship. And that is what my first closest encounter to entrepreneurship was in real life, at least a couple of years before I could start my first business. And voila, in 4 to 5 years, I actually launched my first business. And one of the reasons, and SP, you are aware of it. So one of the reasons why I do what I do today is because when I was launching my first business 10, 12 years ago, I actually reached out to not one, not two, but 11 different business owners here in my city. Some were the owners of really big brands. Some were, just maybe a 3 to 4 year old company. I reached out to 11 such business owners, requesting them to become my mentor. I was willing to pay them. And I heard a no from every single one of them. One person even refused, saying that, "Why would I help another competitor?" And that point of time, I just told myself that I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know when I'm going to do it, but I know that when I'm capable, I will never turn down an aspiring entrepreneur who is coming to me for help. In fact, I will reach out to them and help them in any possible way. And a couple of years later, that is exactly what I'm living my life for.
Fantastic. A lot of story to pick up from your answer, and obviously the seed of entrepreneurship was always there, and that's I think you kept that desire in you always burning, and that led you to different projects within the organizations, and that further helped you in terms of upskilling within the job, as well as, of course, you invested on upskilling outside the job. And your first entrepreneurial initiative is the Weekend Nuts. I mean, that's what I understand. So tell us about that. I mean, how that happened, and really I'm trying to connect this story of an engineer who wanted to become an entrepreneur and starts with a company called Weekend Nuts. So tell us about that.
Thank you for asking. So the name Weekend Nuts is like really nuts, okay? Because that is what my friends used to call me, saying that you are leading. So by then I was leading teams. I was leading tech support team, which used to work 24/7. So even on weekends, I used to be quite very much on call, especially if there was a fire to seize. So I was working, but when your mind is on, when you have that desire to do something more than just living, earning, paying the bills and dying, what happens is, opportunities open up because your mind is always seeking to do something. So one thing that I always keep telling myself till date is that my life will never be boring. It will never be boring. I will always do something that interests me. And if something does not interest me, I'll stop doing it and I'll move on to the next thing. It is as simple as that. So while I was still, leading multiple teams, working 24/7, what I realized is my weekends were still free and I wanted to do something like, so I used to go trekking because I stay in this beautiful city of Bangalore. And every day, every weekend, you can do so many things. So by then I had already explored so many places and trekking routes and biking routes and walking routes and the bus travel routes in and around Bangalore. And now I was thinking, okay, what next? What next? So I started doing this really tiny events, mainly community service events. I used to go alone to orphanages. I used to go alone to old age homes. And those were the years of my life when I was actually going through depression. Major depression for almost 4 to 6 years of my life I have suffered. That is a story for some time later. But while I was going through depression, I realized that one thing that is bringing me eternal peace, apart from my work is keeping me distracted, not necessarily bringing me peace, because there was always this desire of, I can do a lot more than this. So, but the peace I started finding when I started helping others, when I started going and bringing smiles on people's faces. In fact, there became an event around it called as a Smiley Day. The whole concept of Smiley Day was me, it started with me filling a bag full of goodies, walking from one street to another and giving away these sweets, this biscuits, this whatever I could to little children on the streets, the workers, the sanitary workers, the cops, the traffic cops who are really working hard. And my intention was only to bring smiles. And the moment I saw that, I was able to bring even a little smirk on somebody's face, I used to actually feel good. So while I was battling with my own depression, I realized that helping others, bringing smile to others, actually brings a lot of peace to my own mind. I found that peace to be more powerful than the peace of meditation. And I'm a doer. So that is how I started. So I started doing this weekend outings for myself. And then a couple of friends said, "Hey, Rupa, next time when you're going, why don't you call? Why don't you call? Why don't you call?" Then there were friends. Then there were friend. And it was their colleagues and it was their relatives. And I didn't even know. So they said, "Why don't you make a group?" I said, "Okay, fine, I make a group." Then somebody said, "Why don't you name the group?" I said, "I don't know. What name do you want to suggest?" And then a very dear friend of mine, he said, "Rupa, tu to pagal hai. So you are a total nutcase and you do things on weekends. So why don't you name your group as Weekend Nuts?" I said, "Wow, it just appealed to me." And that is how I started Weekend Nuts in 2010, February. That is when I actually started it. But I did not know at that point that, within 2 years, this dream of mine, this little organization, this little group that I have started, I did my first event, got the coverage by TV9, and all that amazing things happened, Deccan Chronicle, and everything is organic. But little did I know that within 2 years, I'll form this as an organization. I was just doing it for spreading smiles. So that is why I think intentions really, really matter. And then what matters is consistency. So what started as a weekend activity group, within 2 years' time, it actually flourished more than what I expected. It got media coverages without even paying a dime. And I was having fun. More than that, I was having an immense sense of peace of mind. And 2 years later, when the time was right, when I became a mom and I had this little baby whom I had to leave back home to go to my office, something was killing me from inside. And all the mothers can absolutely relate to it. I didn't want to do that anymore. And one fine day, I decided to quit my high paid job for good, full time, and make my two babies, give my full attention to my baby, my actual baby, Neil, who is now 10 years old at the time of recording this. And my second baby, which was the older one, was actually the Weekend Nuts as a group. So I retained that name. And very soon, within an year or so, I actually started doing a lot of corporate events, lot of personal events, continued with my community service events. The Smiley Days continued for years and years together. And I added an element of corporate gifts to it, worked with companies like Amazon, Lenovo, Ola, Swiggy, Zuari Cement, Pearson Education, and all the amazing brand names. And it is an absolute honor and privilege to run Weekend Nuts then. But as you know, SP, a couple of years ago, I just woke up with a premonition saying, "Oh my God, events is such a luxury business. What happens when people cannot spend money on events? What happens when people can't get together to do events?" And this was in 2016. 2016, far long before COVID could strike. So in 2016, I decided that, okay, now that events are running fine, I was able to run a large scale corporate event when I was not even in country. So I had team, I had amazing members who used to do all this for my events, and I didn't have to physically be there. So the systems were in place, the processes were in place, and my entrepreneurial mind wanted to do something more. And that is when I tried and I failed at 4 different businesses. Before 2018, 2019 came, and by then I realized my passion for helping others in a different way this time. And it took me back to that promise which I had made to myself, that whenever I can, I will help entrepreneurs. And that dot got connected. How do I help entrepreneurs? Through trainings, through coachings, through mentorings, through masterminds, through workshops. And that is how my second business came into existence. And unlike my first business, I invested a lot in my second business, immensely. I invested close to half a crore of Indian rupees, just in terms of upskilling, getting the best of the mentors, Tony Robbins, T. Harv Eker, Mac Atram, Success Gyan, Success Resources, and the best of the best trainers walking on this planet. I could hire them as my trainers, as my mentors, as my coaches. And within 6 months of launching my second business, I started getting my first international client, second international client. By the time my first year anniversary of my second business finished, I had already helped people from over 13 countries. And that is what I live for. I love. So my weekend nuts business just turned 10 years last month. And my second business is going well. And today, as we speak, SP, I have touched people from over 17 countries.
Amazing story, Rupa. I think I'm sure your story will reach out to probably millions of people. I'm sure you have your own very strong network, and I'm sure a lot of them obviously would be knowing about your story. But I think the way you have explained yourself today, I think it's going to be fantastic, inspirational for a lot of listeners and viewers. I'm sure you will actually inspire a lot of people to do what they love to do. I think if and you mentioned that actually you were always trying to connect the dots in terms of your own core self, and you were trying to do things which are core to you, and that actually gave you a lot of peace and harmony and helped you in passing through difficult phase of your life.
Yeah.
And that's quite philosophical, but at the same time, it's quite simple as well. I think we,
Please.
after getting educated too much, I think we stop
Education
thinking.
spoils us.
Yeah, I think we stop thinking philosophically. We stop thinking through our heart. We
Yeah.
stop. We continue to just think from the mind. I think sometimes that's may not be the right approach. I think. Yeah. Great. So far we talked about your entrepreneurial life, and great to have impacted 17 countries people so far, and I'm sure there's a lot which you will be doing in the coming years. So also take us through your your immediate plans and your long-term plans. How you want to grow further? What are your thoughts on that?
Thank you, SP. Thank you for asking this question. And I would encourage those who are listening to this wonderful podcast to also think about this question for themselves. In other words, what is that do they live for? Yeah, sure, I live for my son, I live for my family, I live for having fun, I live for earning money. But what beyond that? These are very superficial, and these are very how do I put it? These are very
Materialistic.
very materialistic, very superficial, and very here and now. These are very conditioned thoughts. When somebody asks you what are you living for, by conditioning, we will answer these things. I live for as a mother, I live for my son. As a wife, I live for my husband. These kind of answers. But those who are listening, I would encourage them to really ask this question and stop not until you find the true answer to this question. What is your purpose? In other words, let's simplify. What is that one thing which drives you so beautifully that it keeps you awake at night? And if you fall asleep, it actually wakes you up in the morning without that alarm clock. So what is that one thing? For some, it could be photography. So for some, it would be music. But what is it for you, whoever is listening to this? And the answer to that question for me has always been helping people. That was a very high level. But it is an honor and privilege, with the help of the giants who assisted me, who mentored me, who guided me. All my mentors, all my coaches, with the help of them and a lot of self-discovery, I was able to find and refine that intention of helping others into something very more specific. And that purpose for me is my mission. My mission is to support at least 10,000 heart-centered entrepreneurs, not just any entrepreneurs, heart-centered entrepreneurs, business owners who are driven not just by creating income, but looking at creating more and more positive impact on this world. That is what I mean by heart-centered entrepreneurs. So every single day I wake up with this one mission, this one purpose that I want to help. And actually speaking, that is just my midterm plan. This is just my medium-term goal. the intention and the goal of helping at least 10,000 heart-centered entrepreneurs. But the truth is, the long-term goal, which I actually do not speak about much, but you get to listen to this, and those who are tuning into this podcast, you get to listen to this as well, because this is a giant plan. So those 10,000 entrepreneurs whom I am looking at helping, the long-term goal is to inspire these 10,000 entrepreneurs to go ahead and create a plan of their own to positively impact 10,000 entrepreneurs or 10,000 leaders each. In other words, I want to help 10,000 people so that each of these can create 10,000 more leaders, heart-centered leaders. Why? Because look at the world. What is happening to the world today? Whether it is business, whether it is the socio-economic situation, or any other situation, the truth is the world today needs a lot more compassionate leaders now than ever. We don't need more wars. We need more collaborations. We don't need more criticizing anymore. We need encouragement. And that can come only when our leaders are compassionate. And I don't know, if you look at it, 10,000 into 10,000, we are really looking at 100 million people here.
Yeah.
I will probably not even be alive by the time that long-term goal is reached. But I will die peacefully knowing that I am on that goal. My kids, his friends, his next generation, his grandkids, they can benefit from this heart-centered leadership culture that is being initiated. And that is what keeps me awake. That is what I'm driven by every single day. Now, the question is for the listeners, what drives you?
Very, very profound thought and very, I think, very aptly put, because as you rightly said, I think the world has become so materialistic. One of the biggest trend which is panning out right now is the decarbonization and the energy security. These are the two different trends which are trending. It is because of the capitalistic mindset of the countries as well as organizations. Because ultimately what they don't realize is that if we don't have people who can live in this planet Earth in a livable condition, there'll be no purpose of a country, or there'll be no purpose of an organization which can be sustained over a period of time. So I think what you are aspiring to do is actually quite inspirational, and I'm sure a lot of our young listeners will actually take this to heart and really try to answer the question which you asked with. So fantastic. So very well said, Rupa. It's very, very profound. I will.
Thank you, SP. And actually, it is with the young leaders, those people, sorry. So those people who are listening, they are our future leaders.
Yeah.
I will not even be around maybe 10 years, 20 years. God knows how many years do we have, our generation has. So it fills my heart with gratitude, not even pride, not even, some kind of a joy. It actually fills my heart with gratitude when I connect with a 20-something kid, a 30-something person who's doing something which is beyond her or him for creating that positive impact.
Fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic. I think I will, obviously, I know your time limits, so I am very, very keen to ask you the last question, and that is about, have you really thought anything about how you could actually, I'm sure your initiatives are going to impact a lot of business owners and people, young people with entrepreneurial mindset. But when I started off this discussion, we talked about 14% of women in India are entrepreneurs. So have you thought anything about how you could actually impact that in terms of bringing that change and bring more woman entrepreneurship into the equation?
Oh, fantastic question. And the absolute need of the hour. Absolute, especially women entrepreneurship. Nothing against men. Amazing. I have got some of the best men entrepreneurs around me. However, because the numbers, if the numbers is something to go by, then it is a situation not just in India, but most of the developing nations have this problem. And it is not just me. So there are individuals like me who are striving towards it. However, there are organizations who do not need to do it, but they are doing it as a part of their CSR. So one such initiative to which I am associated with is the Google's. So Google runs the CSR called as the Internet Sathi, which is exclusively for benefiting, for practically and tangibly helping rural women entrepreneurs all over the globe. In India, they have so many partners, mobilizing partners, including Shiros. So I'm very closely working with Shiros since 2020. I have been a business mentor with Google and Shiros, where we help cohort of rural women entrepreneurs to literally use this little device called a smartphone to do their entire business. And such a beauty. I mean, I was honored and privileged to help a cohort in 2020, help a cohort of about 40 women entrepreneurs from the smallest villages of India. And within a matter of 6 months, they actually, one such lady very specifically, I would like to, call her out, is Urmila Bain, and there are so many from Gujarat and other places. But Urmila Bain, for instance, Asha Bain, for instance, what she did was she actually called me and told me by the end of 6 months that Rupa, they call me Rupa ma'am. I don't like it, but they call me Rupa ma'am. They say, Rupa ma'am, हम लोग ये device सिर्फ फोन आउटगोइंग इनकमिंग करने के लिए यूज करते थे और व्हाट्सएप. So in other words, we used to use smartphone only for doing incoming and outgoing calls. But today, after 6 months, after the entrepreneurship program, after the business mentoring that you have done and all the mentors have done, what I am doing right now is so this is what these women did. They started using the smartphones. They knew how to create a Facebook page. They made their Instagram account. They made their YouTube channel. They made their Google reviews page. They started using Google Pay, Paytm. And we are talking about rural small villages, and these women are not even educated. They have barely 8th pass or 10th pass or 12th pass. Barely educated. And if we can drive rural entrepreneurship, the world is going to change. India is going to change. Whichever country you might be settled in. I'm talking to the listeners right now. You might be in the remotest part. Help women entrepreneurs in any possible way. It could be as simple as, resharing their page, resharing their post, buying products from them. It makes a real difference. Some of my business mentees are from the smallest rural, most interior towns in Kenya, in Philippines, in the parts of the countries which I have not even heard of. But I know that when they get their first paid client, they actually show me a photo of the bread packet that they have got, the cake that they have got. And it was a humbling story when I got a message from one of my business mentees from a small village, small town inside of a country in the South African region. And she actually clicked a photo of a cake and sent it to me saying that this is the first cake that we have got as a family from outside. And that, if I don't serve these women, what am I doing? So every living breath of mine is dedicated to help those aspiring entrepreneurs, especially women entrepreneurs, especially heart-centered women entrepreneurs, no matter from where they are. If they have a zeal, I will do everything. And I know so many business leaders like me, business mentors like me who are dedicating their life towards this.
Great. Excellent. I think that was a very, very strong message. And I'm sure you are already impacting a lot of people across the world. And through this conversation, I think we'll reach out to a little more people. I think some of my contacts will get to know more about you. And I would be happy even if some people out of this are able to get the benefit of your mentorship. I would be really happy to have contributed in that direction and then contributed with small little portion in terms of improving that 14% of Indian entrepreneurship,
Exactly.
especially the women entrepreneurship in India. And Rupa, it was fascinating talking to you, and so much of energy and so much of passionate stories of really heart-centered stories. And I'm sure that a lot of your personal journey will actually correlate with a lot of our young people who are going to listen to this, and of course their parents as well. I'm sure they will encourage. I think it's the best place on this earth is actually home, and if we are able to create the right kind of environment for our children, every child will do something unique and good in life.
SP, it has been an honor and privilege to serve your audience. And before I go, is it okay if I leave a small little message for all the amazing listeners, the young students, the young leaders and their parents? Is it okay? Can I do that?
Absolutely. Please go ahead.
Thank you. So for the audience, I just want to say that be brave enough to do these three things. Which three things? I'll tell you right now. So first is be brave enough to love yourself, no matter what others are saying. Love yourself. Be brave enough to love yourself. Second, be brave enough to dream big. No dream is too big, honestly speaking, but dream big. Be brave enough to love yourself. Be brave enough to dream big, and be brave enough to inspire others. Because what you would not probably believe is, irrespective of where you are, you might be a student, you might be a backbencher, you might be a dropout, you might be an average employee as of now, you might be an aspiring entrepreneur, you might be a startup owner, you might be a parent of a child who aspires to be a musician. Do these three things. Be brave enough to love yourself, dream big, and inspire others, because you absolutely can. And that will be something that I would recommend you to think about. Leave everything that I said. Just take these three things home. That's all my request is. Thank you. Thank you once again for calling me on this beautiful podcast. And congratulations and kudos to you for doing such a wonderful job. Thank you, Dr. SP.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Hope you enjoyed this episode. We sincerely wish you could take something from our conversation today and be able to apply it to your life in a positive way. We value your feedback. This can help us improve our future episodes. So share your thoughts to serve you better. If you want us to focus on a topic which you think is of importance, let us know. We will share our expertise in future episodes. So, see you soon with a new topic and help you in your career journey.